Well, according to our Darren Ravel, Adidas offered James Harden a 13-year endorsement deal worth $200 million. Nike, whose deal with Harden recently expired, has until the end of next week to match the deal or lose him. The deal would be an average of $15.4 million a year, which would rank him fourth behind LeBron, $44 million, Kevin Durant, $35 million, and Kobe Bryant, $26 million. Petty cash. Stephen A. Smith, does this deal surprise you?
Well, I wouldn't say it surprises me. We take the good and the bad with it. Number one, let's be clear about something here. James Harden is a big-time player. He's averaged over 25 points a game in his last 3 seasons, all in Houston, where he's really shown up ever since getting traded or moved from Oklahoma City to the Houston Rockets. We know what James Harden can do. He is a star in this league. At most nights, he resembles a superstar. Some nights, he does not. But he is big time. He's only 25 years of age. His upside is incredible. We all know this about him. And more importantly, he's a good guy. The only knock that I've ever had against him, Skip, as you well know, he seems to be a bit sensitive at times. You know, never got over people calling him out for his AWOL performance in that finals appearance against the Miami Heat. And Lord knows what he's going to think about us now that he heard what we had to say based on his Game 6 performance against Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. It was putrid. It was pathetic. It's just that simple. But nothing takes away from the cumulative effect of his greatness. He's a great player, a great talent, and more importantly, a great guy. And, whether he likes me or anybody else or not, that's irrelevant. He's a good guy. He doesn't get in any trouble. He's a great ambassador for the game of basketball. He strives to do things the right way. Coach K has spoken up about him. Kevin McHale swears by him. Daryl Morey swears by him. Scott Brooks spoke highly about him when he was in Oklahoma City, along with Sam Presti. Nobody's perfect. He's not. But he's a really good guy. So on that level, based on his talent and his character, he deserves the money. The only thing that has me jumping off the bandwagon has nothing to do with James Harden. I just don't like guys who haven't won anything being rewarded with this kind of money. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to stop him from going out there being great, just like I don't anticipate it'll stop Kevin Durant from going out there and being great. But as I've said in the past, when we would get on LeBron James, because LeBron James, a title had eluded him before he arrived in Miami. At some point in time, we got tired of him being so celebrated without the ring, because champions throughout history, what they lament about today's game is they hate how guys who haven't won anything are so revered, because when they were playing, they couldn't get any shine because they didn't win. Michael Jordan we saw Air Jordan ascending, Skip. We saw him coming. But he had to get past the bad boys. He had to get past the Pistons, okay? You had to win that ring against Magic and Dunleavy and those boys in L.A. Vlade Divac and they were playing. Dunleavy was a coach. I'm just saying you had to do it. Otherwise, we tacitly reminded MJ that despite the Air Jordans and the endorsements and the money, you weren't going to mean nearly as much to us as you could until you won. And those players reach out to me all the time, lamenting today's celebration of guys who haven't earned the right to be celebrated because they haven't accomplished the ultimate goals. So that's the only thing that I frown upon, nothing else.
I got you. But remember, we're not talking about salary here. We're talking about a shoe deal. So Are you telling me that a kid goes to the store and he's trying, if in fact James signs with Adidas, and he's looking at James Harden's Adidas signature sneaker and says, well, he hadn't won a ring yet. I think I'll buy the Nikes.
Actually, I'm not saying that, but Skip, I'll answer that question this way. I was once told that the reason why everybody tries to go to China or do business in China is because the money's a little bit better. But they talked about how Yao Ming was obviously from there. But when they went there in 2008, there was pictures of Kobe everywhere because Kobe was the champion. You see what I'm saying? And China winners. So even though Yao Ming is one of their own, he's a native son, and they love him dearly, he wasn't Kobe. And I'm saying with these sneaker deals, you can't tell the difference because everybody's getting paid whether you win or not.
Okay, although, quick point, Darren Ravel pointed out last night, I believe on 6 o'clock Sports Center, that big men have never been able to be great sneaker salesmen. That the bigger you are, I think there's a disconnect where the kids don't relate to Yao Ming. Sure. How tall was he? 7'5" or whatever he was.
7'6".
I don't know if I could wear that big a shoe. Yeah, 7'6". And now comes Anthony Davis. He would be the next big man, although Anthony plays like a much smaller man. So I think Anthony could still sell sneakers, although there's some question as he reaches superstardom how great a salesman or, sort of a pitchman he would be for his sneakers. But now back to James Harden. To me, Stephen A. Smith, I believe it benefited James to not win MVP. I think it created a little bit of sympathy, a little groundswell of support for him. Like, gee, he might have deserved it. And then we saw what happened with the Players' Choice Awards. Remember, they gave James their MVP, even though they gave Steph some other awards about, what was it called, hardest to guard, most clutch. That was Steph, which sounded like MVP type categories to me. But anyway, James was the player's pick for MVP. And I do think that James could be at least as good a sneaker salesman as Steph Curry, because James has a little more edge to him. He's got the one defining characteristic, the endearing beard. He is the beard. So everybody knows him from this huge mass of facial hair that he wears. And people say, gee, how can he play with all that? Doesn't it get too sweaty? It creates intrigue around James Harden. I don't think it hurts, as Darren Ravel pointed out, he dates a Kardashian. So that gives him another sort of pop culture-y edge as a potential sneaker salesman. And the fact that he scores more points than Steph. He didn't lead the league in points per game. That was Russell Westbrook. But he scored the most points in the NBA. And on any given night, as we know, he can explode. So, to me, dominating the ball, moves to the basket, flying through midair, gymnastic shots, unbelievable. Lots of YouTube for James Harden. Again, I'm a Steph fan. I'm a much bigger Steph fan than a James Harden. But I could see where a lot of kids would buy the shoe that James chooses to endorse.
Well, and I didn't mean to give the impression that he wouldn't be able to sell shoes, and the kids were thinking about winning as opposed to that particular player. I mean, I understand that, and that's why I said he's worthy of it, because he's got a game that warrants it. He's got a character that warrants it, and I think he's a good guy, and I think that he's going to be a great player for years to come. I'm simply saying that it's pretty difficult for guys to be held accountable for their lack of winning when we continue to see them rewarded for their individual exploits. It's pretty hard to talk about guys, oh man, the team is not doing this, the team is not doing that. These guys are just fine because where's the desperation? And I'm not saying that they don't play hard or anything like that. I would never question a professional athlete's character, because you got to have it to get to that level. I'm simply saying there's a difference between character and desperation. When you are desperate,
I agree.
There's something that comes out. And I'm saying in the modern day era of NBA players, elite NBA players that is, certainly not everybody, but elite NBA players, where's the desperation? Because even if you lose, you're still going to be celebrated. And by the way, he went to the Western Conference Finals. It's not like he missed the playoffs. He went to the Western Conference Finals. But you got guys that they ain't making the playoffs and they still getting $15 million contracts and stuff like that. So it just it evaporates the level of desperation, which ultimately you've got to wonder where the jig is, when the jig is going to be up on that in terms of them swelling the level of support aimed in their direction. Because look, we know they can play. We know they're great. But you do want to see some hostility and desperation when you're watching these guys perform. That is going to be absent as long as they're getting these huge contracts.
I agree.
Khloe Kardashian doesn't fear the beard. Adidas or Nike, good problems to have. It's never too early for Super Bowl predictions, though. The guys gave us theirs a couple weeks ago. We are throwing them out. Wait till you hear this one involving Aaron Rodgers. Reactions to that bad man. Can't do it like Stephen A. I try. That's coming up.
Be on top's no sin if it's in your heart. We don't want to fight, but to play the game clean.